This is the release webinar for ProcessMaker Platform's Summer 2025 updates. I'll talk more about this, but a little thing we're doing differently this time is you may already have access to some of the features we're talking about, and you're going to get a few more in the near future. So we've been trickling out these new features rather than giving them all to you all at once and holding on to them until we're ready to hand them over. So hopefully some people have had access to a few of these features a little bit early and have been able to play around with them. All right, as a reminder, I love to point everyone to our quick start guides. You can go to docs.processmaker.com/quick start, and you can find an overview of the same things we're going to talk about today with a little more information about how to get started using them, and also links to our more detailed documentation and training information. So an overview, what we're going to do today, this should be about 30 minutes. I'll give you a quick introduction and run through a list of the features we want to talk about. Jose will give you a short demo and then we'll have a couple minutes at the end for questions. But throughout our presentation and demo, feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask questions of our panelists, who are today Claudia and Alejandra, who are joining us here from our product team. They'll be here to answer your questions. Some of the people responsible for the cool new stuff we're bringing out. I'm MK Wazalewski, our product marketing manager here at ProcessMaker, and joining me as always is Jose Maldonado, who will be giving the demo in a little bit. He is our VP of product. Some ProcessMaker news for you. So we are celebrating our 25th year of innovating on process automation. And we want to take this moment to thank all of you for being part of our journey to empower organizations to do more. So we're having some fun celebrations internally at ProcessMaker, and we want to make sure we extend that thanks to you guys, our users, for being part of that. Let's dive right in. So summer 2025, the big features we've rolled out fall into two categories. This release focuses on solving two universal challenges our customers face every day: how to work faster, reducing friction and delays in processes, and how to work clearer, improving visibility, accountability, usability. So everything you see today ladders up to those two themes, faster work and clearer work. Now, I mentioned earlier we've shifted to trickling out some of these processes, so there's a little asterisk next to a couple of the ones that will be coming out later this month. All right, let's dive right in with features designed to help your teams move faster. Workflows often begin in an email, but routing those emails manually can be a little bit slow and a little bit error prone. So with email start events, workflows can now trigger instantly from incoming emails. Imagine an expense report arriving in your inbox, and instead of sitting in limbo, it immediately kicks off the approval process. So the result is fewer delays, fewer errors, and processes that start running the moment the request arrives. Speaking of communication outside of the ProcessMaker platform, many of us, including myself, spend our days in Slack. So why switch apps? Just to check those tasks. With our new Slack integration, you can get real-time task alerts directly in Slack. So no need to navigate away to check on things. You can keep decisions moving quickly right where your team is already working. So this will make it easier for those of you like us who spend all your days in Slack and use that as the way to keep track of what's happening in your organization. And the third in our faster work category, embedding workflows into portals or websites used to be a little bit of a headache and might have required managing some security risks. And so we've listened to feedback, and now with iframe whitelist, admins can easily allow specific domains to securely embed ProcessMaker content. So this makes setup faster, smoother, and compliant with your security standards. So in practice, it means you can quickly roll out forms to your intranet or your customer portal or your website without having to jump through a lot of hoops with how you configure iframes in external portals. All right, so that is our faster work category. Let's move on to clearer work, which is sort of the hidden side of faster work. So if you've ever wondered where your request is or your case that you started, you know somebody's working on it somewhere and you just want at a glance to see how far along it's gotten. With the new progress bar, the progress bar gives you real-time visibility showing exactly which stage the case is in. So for example, you know that an onboarding request is about 75% complete and there's one step remaining. This makes processes transparent and reduces the back and forth asking for status updates, trying to track down who's working on this and how far it's gotten. To set this up, there's a related feature called Stages that's in the Designer module. So when you're setting up a process model, the process designer can assign stages to each of the steps in the process so that it will show up for in the inbox for end users. Okay, commenting on reassigned tasks. Now, when tasks get reassigned without an explanation, occasionally that might cause some confusion. You want to get it to the right person, but you want to make sure that there's an auditable way to track why it was reassigned. So now, reassignments can include a comment. For example, finance might reassign an invoice to another reviewer with more relevant experience. The small change adds accountability and keeps everyone aligned, making handoffs much clearer. So, uh, not only in the moment being able to see why why a task was reassigned, but also if you need to look back through your audit trails, you'll be able to find it there. All right, finally, now clarity is not just about visuals, it's also about usability for everyone. So ARIA, if you're not familiar, is a tool to make forms and screens much easier to use with screen readers. So with the latest additions, inputs, checkboxes, and drop-downs are now fully accessible with screen readers. So this means visually impaired colleagues can complete workflows independently, creating a clearer and more inclusive experience. So that's a quick overview of what we have for you guys today. I'm going to hand it over to Jose, who's going to show it to you in real time.
Of course. Thank you, MK. First, a quick sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just scoot my webcam. I just keep knocking it off. And then, hi everyone. I'm Jose. I head our head our product teams here at ProcessMaker, and I'm so excited to on their behalf show some of the cool things that we've been working on, as MK has been graciously describing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know, MK, once something comes up. This should be coming up just about.
Yes. I can see your whole browser window.
Wonderful. So yes, there's a couple of just tabs that I want to jump around. So, all right, let's jump right in. I want to start, take the next few minutes talking about a couple of these features that you're describing, MK. The first one has to do with progress bars and stages. So let's go ahead and jump right into that, because I particularly find them extremely useful. So I'm here in our cases tab. This is basically, as many of you know, a console overview of all cases that they're running, that have run. And depending on, of course, on your permission set, you'll be able to review more or less of these cases, or fewer of these. So what you'll notice is we have introduced two additional columns to this view. One is the progress bar, and the other one is the stage name. And as MK was describing, the idea here is that this progress bar is automatically calculated as your process navigates through these stages, and we're also calling out the stages. Now, so what does this mean? So to explain this a little better, I'm just going to open up. So one of these examples, here's a campus report. You can see we have it existing in different stages. I'm just going to open any one of these cases here. You'll notice also that we have the actual stage name and the progress alongside with the generic in progress tag. But I'm just going to go ahead and open this process on the modeler so that we can see what this design looks like. So conceptually, and I think I had it all in one of these tabs. It's a pretty straightforward process. I think we pulled it off of one of our templates. You'll notice it is a process that has several different steps. And when you have processes that grow a bit unwieldy with many tasks and sequence flows, calling out only how it's flowed might be a bit obscure into where exactly our process is executed. So I'm referring to, let's go back. Let me just going to leave this open. Let's go back to our cases tab real quick. And let's go open any one of these. If I review an overview, we can see how it's executed. But while this is useful in many contexts to understand how it's routed, it's a bit convoluted to have to navigate through a map just to understand like where are we in the process. And this is particularly true for larger processes that have several tasks and might have taken different pathways here and there to reach the point where they are. And we, of course, can create summary pages. I'll show that in a second, where the designers, process designers, can decide what they want to communicate at each point of this. But then they also have to be very mindful and manual about how to manipulate this message across the process execution to reflect the appropriate stage. So to solve all of this, we introduce these concepts, that I have here, of stages and progresses, and the overall progress. So stages is a new abstract concept that you're going to find as a property for every sequence flow. So if I open this sequence flow, you'll find a new stages listing, and these stages are. Let me just reset this because I've been having it open for a while. Stages are designer declared. So you get to choose what your stages are. And this is helpful because in many cases, we can decide to group multiple tasks, multiple steps, multiple flows within one stage, and you just want to communicate that. So imagine a process where you have several reviews, several tasks in between, but they're all conceptually under the same stage, and you want to communicate that easily. But even if you're communicating one stage per task, like is in this case, it's there's no clear way to advertise where are we and how does that relate to the process of declaring these. So instead, what we can do is I just have it repeated here. That's why it's jumping around. What we can do is you can create your stages just as easily, and as you navigate through different sequence flows, you just mark which stage do you want to declare. And there is no additional setup needed. And you get to choose, never mind how it routes, what stage does this flow belong to. And what's interesting of associating this to the sequence flow itself is that it's very descriptive to understand that it is through this sequence flow when the case executes that establishes the new stage. Never mind the tasks and nodes that it's traversing to get there, or the ones that it goes afterwards. And so by having this setup, this is what allows us to then calculate in real time where you are on each of these stages. So for instance, let me go ahead and open any one of these. Anyone. So we have a classification here process. Let's just start a new one so that we can get a sense of what this is going to look like. Let me come back to the process. So here we have, this starts with a web entry. I'm just going to go ahead and copy the web entry link. It's authenticated, so at least the start I can get access to. This is a simple process to report campus issues for higher ed. It would be a web entry, so I'd have to declare like who am I. So never for this example, never mind the actual content, but I'm just going to put any information. Let's say that we have an issue. Let's say that there is a disruption on the football field, and then there is a tree here because why not? And we might declare it as urgent. on the field. I'm going to add a quick file to this. Bear with me. It's going to add a picture that I took of the tree on our football field, and I'm going to submit it. So the process flow now it goes to someone else. So since I'm logged in, it's not for me. But if we go to our cases tab, notice that our process here we have the disruption on the football field, and notice that this process is calculated automatically, this progress based on just the number of stages that we are, and we declare the name of these stages quite easily. So if you visit the any sequence flow, you can edit what the name that you want to declare for this stage, and this will reflect anywhere where the process is reset to the stage that we're reviewing. So that's what's going on. That's the other one on my disruption. So of course, this one is assigned to Terry Triage, so it's not assigned to this user, but I have the admin privileges, so I can override it. Notice that we have the stage here on our case task. We can see it's assigned to Terry. I'm just going to hijack it to push it forward. We see the information. There's the picture. And Terry Triage can decide what do we want to do with it. We're just going to go ahead and declare that this is part of the custodial uh, coordination. And, please review. I'm going to go ahead and send that. And so now we're back here. Notice that now the process is further along. It's went into it's reassigned to the custodial. Sorry for the mega zoom. It's reassigned for the custodial team. So we're keeping a nice track on where the process is going. So now I want to show you something else related to this. If we open this and we want to understand and communicate this a little better, if we were to go to the overview, sure, we can see the map and see how it's been flowing, but sometimes this is not necessarily the best way to communicate to users where we are. That's why we also have summary pages. This one set has the default message, and this is what shows when your process does not have a summary page configured. So let's go ahead and create one real quick so that we can see how these stages can also be automatically filled up for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this process in its design view, maybe in its configuration pane, sorry. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it here and click on configure. And it's asking for a request detail screen. So actually, let me just pause this. Let's go ahead and create one real quick. And as some of you may know, request detail pages are built in our screen builder as well as most anything else, but these are from the display type, meaning they don't collect any input because it's only a read-only display. I'm going to pick a blank one just to show, and this is going to be my campus facility summary, campus issue summary. And yeah, for campus reporting. All right. We can categorize it, add it to a project. Okay. And so of course, this is a blank this screen. We can add, new or not new campus issue case. If we knew the variables for it, which we can, maybe spy on bar finder to find. Here we have a campus issue summary, the facility report, there's a triage. These are the different variables for it, the manager classification. So we could bring these along to, add them to our screen. Let me just add a quick one. We can say, yeah, sure, they bring me the issue classification, bring me the, yeah, sure, bring me the issue title, and so on. So this could go on. This is a bit beyond the point. But now what I want to demo is notice that here in dashboards, we have a new element called case progress bar. I'm going to go ahead and drag this into our form. And notice it's basically a placeholder for whatever the stage is. That includes the different, tracker stages with their respective dates. And I don't need to configure anything at all. Right now it's kind of a lock look and feel, and we'll be rolling out different versions with different UI so you can tweak and match to your styling. But overall, I don't have to do anything to configure and advertise this. Um, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at that. All I did was add a case progress bar element to our screen and maybe some additional context if we so want. Just going to go ahead and save that. This is our campus issue summary screen. So let's go back to our process configuration. And I'm going to go ahead and at the request detail screen, let's find that screen that we just created. Here it is, campus issue summary. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And that's right. So now that it's saved, if we go back to our case list, now when I open any process that is on this campus report, any case that is from this campus report process, let's just go ahead and open it. So it's the same thing. It's still assigned to Culkin Custodial, which we reassigned from the triage. If we go to our summary, now notice we see the status of how it's flown, when each date did it go through that specific stage. Let's find another example. Here's a different one. This one is still help on campus for a Terry triage. So this one still needs to be triaged. Let's take a look at that. So summary. Notice this is new, still needs to be triaged. So this stage is in progress. And we can see here, how it's moving along. So overall, it's pretty straightforward way. And as a designer, I'm in full control of what stages I want to communicate, independent from the actual process map, so that we can make it very clean. Maybe a process, again, that has 20 tasks has only legitimately 3 stages conceptually that are the ones that we want to communicate. And stakeholders or users don't need to don't care to understand the specific sub-process task where it is in order to be in that stage. So process stages is a great way to communicate that. So that's one thing I wanted to show. And now I'm going to change gears a little bit to show a couple of different features. So let me just switch processes here real quick. All right, so here I have another very simple process that serves just to illustrate our new start event. So many of you are familiar with our start events. We have several start events, and now we have added a new start event. I'm just going to add a new one so you can see. These are our regular start events. So start manually, start when a timer hits, start when we receive a signal, so maybe an API endpoint. And now we have added this email start event that when you select and turn a start event, you can configure it with a number of different options. So that's exactly what I've done here. Let me just show you on this example here. And this is basically a start event that's going to trigger a process whenever a file reaches an inbox, and particularly when that file matches certain conditions that we can additionally set up. So the way that this works is that we need to configure an email listener, and I'll show that just in a second. But basically, an email listener is a scheduling job that it's monitoring an email inbox, and you set up how you want that to happen, how to authenticate where this email inbox is. But basically, this scheduler is then continuously running and monitoring the listener. You can have multiple listeners configured, each listener tied probably to a different email address or email account. And then once a new email falls into the listener that you're listening on, it's going to evaluate the start event as you configured it here. So notice that we can, for instance, add a condition that if the subject text contains the string resume, then that's enough to start the process, because maybe you're monitoring an inbox that receives multiple messages and you don't want to start a case for everyone. In this particular example, I only want to start cases rather, when we receive email that has resume on its subject line. Similarly, you can add conditions to the body, who send in, if what type of attachments to it have. So this allows you to be very flexible to really filter out what specific set of emails, subset of emails are going to fire off new cases. And in this final example, I'm also adding that please include the documents, any attachments that come in our file, add them to our request so that we can analyze them or do whatever we need with them downstream in our workflow. And all that information is held in a data variable that I get to declare. This is basically a structured JSON object that has all these data points for the sender, the message itself, the attachments, and so on. So in this very simple example, I'm monitoring this, I'm listening into this account, and I have an inbox that's waiting for resumes. And if I get a resume, I just have a simple genie that's telling me like what's going on here so that it sends that summary into uh, a review screen for someone to check out. So I'm going to kick it off, and because it takes a minute or so for the listener to pick up on the new email. So let's leave it running, and while we get the message, I can show you a little bit how this is all set up. Notice that we have here just a notification of that Terry triage. So I'm just going to clear that notification. So we have clean notifications. And so the way that this works is that we're listening on this email, cpn4demos@gmail.com. I'll show you how that's set up in a minute. But as I mentioned, in order to, let's just first send an email there, and I'll show it to you while we wait for a response. So here's my demo account. Let me just add a new email here. So we're going to write to PN4Demos, and I'm going to say, please consider my resume. And that's the keyword so that this actually receives our or fires off our start event, right? And then I'm going to attach a file. So I just happen to have on hand Homer Simpson's resume, which our frequent audience would recognize from webinars of old. We use this for a different candidate analyses process that we put together a few months ago, which would be a great follow-up to this process that we're showing up here. All right, so this is a very standard use case. Let me add my resume to an email and send it somewhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and fire that off. And now that it's running, let's give it a minute or two. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you like how we actually go about this. So I'm going to go quickly into our admin section here. And you'll notice over here on our settings, this is where we configure actions by email. So there are tons of email settings here on this email configuration. This is where you would configure actions by email, which is a similar use case, but different, which is in order to process emails as actual form submissions. We have default settings that we're using to send emails in general, email notifications. And over here we have our listeners. And so these are these listeners that I've set up, and here's that PM4. And when we create a new listener, basically all we need to do is say, how are we authenticating with an IMAP server? And we'll use an app password or whatnot. And then how do we want to schedule it? So how frequently are we monitoring this inbox? So in this example, it's repeating every 2 minutes. So hopefully in any second now, we should be notified that our case was fired off. And that's basically it. You can enable it, disable it. You can decide any window, and you can program different. I don't know if this shows when I expand the dropdown, but you can configure it whether you want it to happen daily or every hour or every subset of minutes. So let's see if it should come in. And I think this is notification from before. So let's give it another second or two, and hopefully it'll come in. In any case, I can probably, while we wait, I can show you an example from just a few minutes earlier because for time's sake, it might take a couple of seconds. But when it hits, notice that the process starts new review resume. Oh, here it is. Actually, we've got just the new one. So Ringo has been assigned the task to new resume review. Let's open the actual one. And this is the task with the summary that was produced by the genie. Tell us what it is. Here's the file for Homer Simpson's resume. So, it's a workflow, so we can take it downstream and do whatever we need. But now we're starting the process off of uh, off of an email. The last thing I want to show, just and maybe we can do another example. Maybe we should have done this earlier so that we don't have to do it again. Is that we can notice how I just got that notification telling me that we have a new case here. I'm going to come into my personal settings here. Here's our panel for connected accounts, and we have a new setting called that is the Slack connected account. This is configured by your admin, basically simply providing your account API token. Once that is in place, all your users need to do is to just switch up a checkbox to basically opt into receiving in Slack your email message. And that's basically going to create a PM notification channels in Slack that's tied to your username. And it will work without additional configuration because all that we need is that your username in ProcessMaker, your email address in ProcessMaker matches your email address in Slack. Here you can see a couple of tests from earlier, but we can test it real quick. If, for instance, let's come to some of these processes and make sure that we get a couple of notifications. We can do this one, although this one takes a couple of minutes. So maybe we just modify this one. If I make sure that I'm the one assigned to, and here, so Terry triage, or I have this notification to get to be notified as the process manager when this is assigned. So which is the case, I'm just going to go ahead and start a new process for this. So let's come back to this. I'm going to go ahead and copy the web entry URL. That's the one from last time. Let's go ahead and start that. Let's put a new form filling here real quick. Let's see what other examples I have here pretty quickly. Bear in mind, I'm just looking at my screenshots real quick. But I have a couple of examples that we can use. Yeah, so how about this one? I'm just going to go ahead and put it first and see if this works. Why don't we make this report, which is kind of interesting. Our team swimming pool has been hijacked. So, ducks in pool. Now, the keen folks in our audience would recognize that we can just ask our genie to figure this out for us. That works just fine. Pool needs help. All right. So for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. And as I do, let's switch to our PM notifications. And if that flowed, yeah, it was, it's pretty straightforward. 11:35, that's exactly a minute ago. So here it is, which means that, let me just double check that that's the one that we're waiting on. Okay. Yeah. We can go ahead and see classify issue, campus facility report. Let's check that out. And yeah, there it is, straight from Slack. I click the link, I get my task, and that way, sometimes I'm not super mindful of my PM notifications in app, but I'm absolutely in Slack. So, if you have the right teams, they can go and fish some ducks out of our campus swimming pool. So that was pretty quick and straightforward, but hopefully between progress bars and stages and email start events and Slack notifications, our processes will be that much more useful for our audiences.